I am Murianne Hayes, and I am 28 years old. 2 weeks ago, on Christmas Eve, my parents threw me out of our $12 million estate with nothing but a suitcase and the clothes on my back. My sister Tara stood in the doorway, arms crossed, smiling like she'd just won the lottery. "Let's see how you survive out there, Maury," she said. "Maybe it'll toughen you up." I sat shaking on a snow-covered bench in Greenwich, Connecticut, watching families through lit windows, wondering if I'd ever feel warm again. I'd lost my job, I'd lost my inheritance, $38 million, handed to my sister like I'd never existed. I thought I'd lost everything. Then I saw her. A barefoot woman stumbling through the snow, her lips turning purple. I gave her my winter boots, my grandmother's cashmere coat, everything I had left. An hour later, 19 black BMWs surrounded me. The woman stepped out of the center car and spoke one sentence that flipped my entire world upside down. "Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly connect with this story. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I'd love to know who's with me on this journey." Now, let me take you back to the night that changed everything. The Hayes estate sat behind wrought iron gates, like a fortress of old money and older expectations. Georgian architecture, marble driveway, a 15-foot Christmas tree in the foyer dripping with Swarovski crystals that cost more than most people's cars. My father, Richard Hayes, 62, built his reputation in commercial real estate before retiring into what he called legacy management, which mostly meant controlling every aspect of our lives from his leather chair in the study. My mother, Diana, 59, was a former model who'd traded runways for country club luncheons and annual galas at the Greenwich Yacht Club. She measured success in designer labels and dinner party invitations. Appearance was everything. Substance was optional. Then there was Tara, 25, Stanford MBA, investment analyst at Goldman Sachs, the golden child who could do no wrong. She had our father's sharp business mind and our mother's ruthless social instincts. Every achievement was celebrated with champagne and phone calls to distant relatives. Every promotion earned her another Hermes bag. And me? I was the older daughter who'd somehow failed to launch. I'd worked as a marketing coordinator at a mid-tier agency in Manhattan. Decent work, decent pay, nothing spectacular. When the company announced layoffs 3 weeks before Christmas, my name was on the list. I came home thinking my family would support me, help me regroup. I was wrong. The Hayes family had a trust fund established by my paternal grandparents, $38 million, meant to be divided between Tara and me when we turned 25 and 30 respectively. But the distribution was at my parents' discretion. And discretion, I was about to learn, was just another word for favoritism. "Maury, maybe if you'd tried harder, you wouldn't be unemployed right before Christmas," Tara said the night I told them, sipping her Whispering Angel rosé. I should have known then what was coming. I drove back to Greenwich in my 10-year-old Honda, a car my father openly mocked every time I visited. "When are you going to upgrade, Murianne? You're embarrassing the family." That night, December 23rd, I pulled through those gates hoping for comfort, maybe even understanding. Instead, I found my mother in the kitchen arranging imported Italian cookies on Wedgwood china, her face tight with disapproval. "Murianne." She didn't look up. "How will you contribute now?" Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "We'll figure this out together." Just cold calculation. "Mom, I have savings. I'll find something after the holidays. I just needed to." "Your father wants to see you in the study, now." The study. That meant serious. I climbed the curved staircase, my stomach knotting with each step. Through the doorway, I could see my father sitting behind his mahogany desk, a leather folder I'd never seen before laid out in front of him. Tara sat in one of the wingback chairs, perfectly composed in her Brunello Cucinelli sweater, looking like she already knew the punchline to a joke I hadn't heard yet. "Sit down, Murianne," my father said. I sat. He didn't offer pleasantries, didn't ask how I was handling the layoff. He just opened the folder and said, "We need to discuss the family trust." My heart sank. The trust was supposed to be untouchable, a safety net, the one thing I knew I could count on when I turned 30 in 2 years. "We've made a decision," he continued, his voice flat and businesslike. "Given recent circumstances, your mother and I believe it's in the family's best interest to consolidate the funds." Tara's smile widened just a fraction. My father pulled out a document, turned it toward me. That's when I saw it. Effective immediately, the full 38 million will be transferred to Tara. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at the paper, at the legal letterhead, at the signatures already in place. This wasn't a discussion. It was a notification. "What?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Dad, that's not fair. Grandma and Grandpa set that fund up for both of us. And we have the discretion to allocate it as we see fit," my mother said from the doorway, her arms crossed. She must have followed me up. "Murianne, you have to understand. Tara has proven herself. She has direction, ambition, a career trajectory." "I have a career." "Had," Tara corrected, her voice sickeningly sweet. Past tense. My father leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Murianne, you're 28 years old, and you've achieved, what exactly? A mid-level position you couldn't even hold on to?" "They laid off 40 people. Tara wouldn't have been on that list." He said it with such certainty, such casual cruelty. "The strong survive, the weak get cut. That's how the world works." I felt something crack inside my chest. "So you're punishing me for getting laid off?" "We're rewarding competence," my mother said. "Tara has never given us a reason to doubt her. You, on the other hand." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Tara stood, smoothing her skirt. "Don't take it personally, Maury. This is just business. Maybe you'll find your footing eventually. Until then." She shrugged, a gesture so dismissive it felt like a slap. "I don't accept this," I said, my voice shaking. "This isn't right." My father closed the folder with a decisive snap. Then he said the words that broke something inside me. "Pack your things. You have 1 hour." I stared at him. "What?" "You heard me. If you're not going to contribute to this household, you can't live here. It's time you learn to stand on your own." "Richard, it's Christmas," I started. "It's December 23rd, my mother corrected. "You'll have 2 days to find arrangements before the holiday. Surely that's enough time for someone with your resourcefulness." She said it like I'd been scheming, like I'd somehow caused this. Tara didn't even try to hide her satisfaction. "Let's see how you survive out there, Maury. Maybe it'll toughen you up. God knows you need it." I looked at my father, waiting for him to say this was a lesson, a scare tactic, something that would end with, "We just want you to take life seriously." But his expression was stone. He'd already moved on, pulling out his phone to check emails. I was dismissed, erased. I climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom, the room I'd barely lived in since college, but still thought of as mine. My hands shook as I pulled my old suitcase from the closet. I threw in clothes, toiletries, my laptop, a framed photo of my grandmother. Everything felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life collapse. I put on my warmest clothes, jeans, boots, a sweater. And over it all, the coat my grandmother had given me for my 25th birthday, a Loro Piana cashmere in charcoal gray. She'd saved for months to buy it. Told me, "Kindness is the only currency that multiplies, Maury. Don't ever forget that." I wish she were still alive. She would have fought for me. I dragged my suitcase down the stairs. My parents didn't come out to say goodbye. Only Tara stood at the door, watching me leave with that same cool smile. The gates closed behind me with a metallic clang that sounded like finality. The temperature had dropped. Snow fell in thick, silent curtains, blanketing Greenwich Avenue in white. I walked without direction, my suitcase wheels catching on ice, my breath fogging in the frigid air. Every house I passed glowed with warmth, families gathered around fireplaces, children hanging stockings, laughter spilling through windows. I'd never felt so invisible, so expendable. I found a stone bench near the town center, partially sheltered by a bare oak tree, and sank onto it. My phone buzzed. For a wild second, I thought maybe my mother had changed her mind. Maybe she'd texted to say, "Come back, we didn't mean it." It was a promotional email from a department store. 40% off holiday gifts. I checked my messages. Nothing. No missed calls. No one wondering if I was okay. I opened my banking app. $12,000 in savings. Enough to rent a cheap apartment maybe, if I could find one during the holidays. Enough to survive for a few months if I was careful. But no safety net beyond that. No family to fall back on. No trust fund waiting at 30. I pulled my grandmother's coat tighter around me, remembering her voice. Kindness is the only currency that multiplies. At the time, I'd thought she was being poetic. Now, sitting alone in the snow with nothing but a suitcase and a childhood of rejection behind me, I wondered if kindness even mattered. I'd been kind my whole life, accommodating, grateful. And where had it gotten me? I wiped my eyes before the tears could freeze on my cheeks. That's when I saw her. A figure stumbling through the snow, barefoot, her thin frame shaking violently. An older woman, maybe 70, in nothing but a threadbare cardigan and cotton pants. Her lips were turning purple. I forgot my own misery instantly. I ran toward her, my boots slipping on ice. Ma'am, are you okay?" She turned toward me, and I saw her face clearly for the first time. Pale, almost translucent skin, sharp blue eyes that seemed far too alert for someone on the verge of hypothermia, gray hair plastered to her forehead with melting snow. Her voice was a rasp. "I got lost. My shoes. I don't know where." She swayed, and I caught her arm. Her skin was ice cold. "Okay, it's okay. Let me help you." I looked around desperately for someone else, anyone else. But the street was empty. Everyone was inside, safe and warm with their families. I guided her to the bench, made her sit. She was shaking so hard I could hear her teeth chattering. "Where do you live? Do you have family nearby?" She shook her head weakly. "Can't remember." Hypothermia. She was already confused. If I didn't get her warm soon, she could die out here. I looked down at my boots, Aquatalia, waterproof, the most expensive pair I owned. I'd bought them with my first real paycheck 3 years ago. I didn't hesitate. I knelt in the snow and unlaced them. "Here, put these on." Her eyes widened. "No, you need them more." I slid them onto her bare feet. They were too big, but they'd keep her from losing her toes. She stared at me, something unreadable flickering across her face. "Why are you helping me?" I met her gaze. "Because no one should be alone in the cold on Christmas Eve." The wind picked up, cutting through my sweater. I was already starting to shiver. Then I did something my family would call foolish. I took off my coat. The Loro Piana cashmere slid off my shoulders, taking the last of my warmth with it. $3,200. My grandmother had worked extra shifts at the library for 6 months to afford it. She'd presented it to me with tears in her eyes, saying it was an investment, something that would last me a lifetime. I draped it over the woman's shoulders. "Here, you need this more than I do." She pulled it around herself, and for the first time, the shaking began to slow, but her eyes filled with tears. This is very expensive. Are you sure?" I tried to smile. Material things don't keep you warm when you're alone anyway. It was a lie. I was already freezing. But something about this moment felt important in a way I couldn't explain, like the universe was testing me, like my grandmother was watching. The woman's hand reached out, papery thin fingers gripping mine with surprising strength. "What's your name?" "Miriam Hayes." She held my gaze for a long moment, And I saw something shift in those blue eyes. Recognition, maybe, or decision. Or, "Thank you, Marianne," she said softly. "You've given me more than you know." Before I could ask what she meant, she stood, steadier now, wrapped in my coat, wearing my boots. She looked at me one more time, and I could have sworn I saw her mouth the words, "I found you." But that didn't make sense. She turned and walked into the darkness, disappearing between snow-covered cars. I sat back down on the bench, pulling my suitcase close, wrapping my arms around myself. My socks were already soaked through. The cold bit deeper with every passing second. I closed my eyes and tried not to cry. An hour later, the street was suddenly flooded with headlights. 19 black BMW 7 Series sedans rolled down Greenwich Avenue in perfect formation, their headlights cutting through the falling snow like searchlights. They surrounded the small park, boxing me in from every angle. My heart hammered in my chest. Car doors opened in unison. Men and women in dark suits stepped out, at least a dozen of them, maybe more, all moving with military precision. I stood up, gripping my suitcase handle. "What's going on?" A man in his mid-40s approached, his charcoal suit perfectly tailored, his expression calm but authoritative. "Ms. Hayes, my name is Marcus Brennan. Please don't be alarmed." "How do you know my name?" My voice came out higher than I intended. "Did I do something wrong?" He smiled, a small professional smile that somehow made him seem less threatening. "On the contrary, you did something extraordinarily right." "I don't understand." "Ms. Calloway would like to speak with you." "Who?" He gestured toward the center vehicle, the largest of the fleet. The back door opened, and a figure stepped out. It was her, the barefoot woman. Except now, she was wearing elegant leather boots, not mine, different ones, a long wool coat over my grandmother's cashmere. And when she stood to her full height, I realized she wasn't frail at all. She was commanding, regal even. She walked toward me with purpose, and I saw her clearly for the first time. The sharp intelligence in her eyes, the way everyone around us seemed to defer to her without a word being spoken. "Marianne," she said, her voice strong and clear, "I owe you an explanation." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. She smiled gently. "My name is Eleanor Calloway, and I've been looking for you for a very long time." Eleanor Calloway. The name hit me like a freight train. I'd heard it before. Everyone had. She was a legend in philanthropic circles. The widow of tech billionaire David Calloway, who died 15 years ago and left her a fortune estimated at over $2 billion. She'd turned that fortune into the Calloway Foundation, the largest private charity for homeless services in the United States. And she was standing in front of me, wearing my grandmother's coat. "I don't understand," I whispered. Eleanor gestured to the bench. "May I sit?" I nodded, too stunned to do anything else. She settled beside me, folding her hands in her lap. "For the past 2 years, Marianne, I've been searching for my successor, not through resumes or board recommendations or Ivy League networks. Those tell me nothing about a person's character, so I've been doing something different." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I've been walking the streets, dressed as someone in need, testing people, seeing who would help a stranger when there was nothing to gain. No cameras, no recognition, just human decency." My mouth went dry. "In 2 years, I've approached over 200 people. Most walked past without a glance. Some gave me spare change, small amounts they could afford to lose. 3 people offered real help. One called a shelter for me. One bought me a coffee. One gave me a $20 bill." She turned to face me fully. "You're the only person who gave me something that cost you, something precious, something irreplaceable." I thought about the coat, my grandmother's voice. "Kindness is the only currency that multiplies." "You gave me your shoes, Marianne, your coat, your warmth. And when I asked why, you said, 'Because no one should be alone in the cold on Christmas Eve.'" Her eyes glistened. You gave me dignity. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. I'd like to offer you the position of CEO of the Callaway Foundation, Eleanor said quietly, effective immediately. Before I tell you what I did next, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to support you? Drop yes or no in the comments below, and if you're comfortable, share a bit of your story. Also, if you're enjoying this so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything. Now, let's get back to that freezing night. I stared at Eleanor Callaway, certain I'd misheard. I'm sorry, what? CEO of the Callaway Foundation, a $2.4 billion organization dedicated to ending homelessness in America. She said it like she was offering me a cup of tea, not my entire future. Why me? The question burst out before I could stop it. I have no experience running a foundation. I just lost my job. I'm sitting on a park bench in the snow with everything I own in a suitcase. Exactly, Eleanor said. You understand what it means to lose everything. And despite that, or perhaps because of it, your first instinct wasn't to protect yourself. It was to protect someone else. Marcus Brennan stepped forward, holding a slim leather portfolio. Ms. Hayes, Mrs. Callaway doesn't make decisions lightly. Her entire team has been documenting your interaction tonight. Everything was recorded for verification purposes. You were watching me? We watch everyone, Eleanor said gently. It's the only way to see who people really are. Experience can be taught, Miriam. Integrity cannot. I took a shaky breath, trying to process what was happening. 3 hours ago, my family had thrown me away like trash. Now this woman, this legendary philanthropist, was offering me the most important job of my life. If I accept, I said slowly, I have one condition. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Go on. I want to build a second home shelter, specifically for people kicked out by their families during holidays. People who have nowhere to go when the people who should love them decide they're not worth keeping. Eleanor's face softened. She reached out and squeezed my hand. Then we start tomorrow. Marcus opened the portfolio and pulled out a thick document. Even in the dim streetlight, I could see the official letterhead, Callaway Foundation Inc. This is a CEO employment contract, he explained, his voice calm and professional. It's been reviewed by our general counsel and notarized by a New York State certified notary public. 7 members of our board of directors have already signed, authorizing your appointment pending your acceptance. He flipped through his pages, pointing out sections. Starting salary, $240,000 per year. Performance bonuses tied to measurable outcomes, shelter placements, job training completions, sustainable housing transitions. You'll have discretionary authority over the initial $50 million allocation for new programs, including your second home initiative. $50 million. I'd just lost $38 million I'd never even touched, and now this stranger was handing me more than that to help people. You'll report directly to the board, Marcus continued. Mrs. Callaway will serve as advisory chair but will not interfere with day-to-day operations. You'll have full hiring authority for your executive team, subject to board approval for C-suite positions. Eleanor reached into her coat, my coat, and pulled out a small titanium card. She pressed it into my palm. It was heavy, cold, embossed with the Callaway Foundation logo and a phone number. This is my direct line, she said. 24 hours a day. You'll never be alone in this, Miriam. I looked down at the contract, at the signature lines, at the impossible opportunity being offered to someone who'd been deemed worthless just hours ago. My hand trembled as I took the pen Marcus offered. I thought about my grandmother, about her coat, warm around Eleanor's shoulders, about kindness multiplying. I signed my name. The next 2 weeks blurred together in a whirlwind of meetings, briefings, and crash courses in nonprofit management. Eleanor had arranged for me to stay in a foundation-owned apartment on the Upper East Side, 2 bedrooms tastefully furnished with a view of Central Park. It felt like waking up in someone else's life. Every morning at 7, Marcus arrived with coffee and a schedule. I met with Allison Park, the the foundation's CFO, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, who walked me through balance sheets, grant allocations, donor relations, and the intricate financial architecture that kept a $2.4 billion operation running smoothly. "You don't need to know everything on day one," Allison said, sliding another spreadsheet across the conference table. "But you need to understand the basics. Every dollar we spend has to be defensible, transparent. Our donors aren't just writing checks, they're investing in outcomes." I met the board of directors. Greg Whitmore, the 78-year-old chairman, initially greeted me with polite skepticism, but Eleanor had shown him the security footage from that night. 3 camera angles capturing me kneeling in the snow to put boots on a stranger's feet, wrapping my coat around her shoulders. After watching it twice, Greg stood and shook my hand. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Hayes. Let's do some good." Dr. Vivian Ross, a psychologist specializing in trauma and displacement, became an unexpected mentor. She helped me develop the framework for Second Home, not just beds and meals, but counseling services, job training, legal aid for family mediation when appropriate. "Some families reconcile," Vivian said gently. "Some don't. Your job is to make sure people have options either way." I worked 16-hour days, fell into bed exhausted, woke up terrified I wasn't good enough, but no one from my family called. No one checked if I was alive. And that, somehow, made it easier to move forward. 10 days before the annual Callaway Foundation Gala, Marcus knocked on my office door. My office. A concept I still hadn't fully absorbed, and stepped inside with an iPad. "Miriam, there's something you should know." I looked up from the Second Home budget proposal I'd been reviewing. "What is it?" "The Hayes family is on the gala guest list. They've been VIP donors for the past 3 years, 50,000 annually." The pen slipped from my fingers. Marcus set the iPad on my desk, showing me the donor database. There they were. Richard and Diana Hayes, Greenwich, Connecticut. Donation history dating back to when Eleanor's late husband was still alive. They'd attended every gala, posed for photos, networked with Manhattan's elite. They'd been funding the organization I now ran, and they had no idea. "Eleanor knows," Marcus said quietly. "She wanted you to decide. We can revoke their invitation if you'd prefer. It's your event now." I stared at their names on the screen. Part of me wanted them gone, wanted to never see their faces again. But another part, the part that had been growing stronger over the past 2 weeks, knew exactly what needed to happen. "No," I said. "Let them come." Marcus studied me. "Are you sure?" "They should see this." I met his eyes. "They should see what they threw away." He nodded slowly. "Eleanor thought you might say that. She asked me to tell you something. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this for every person who's been told they're not enough." I felt my throat tighten. "Tell her thank you. Tell her yourself. She'll be calling tonight." When he left, I sat alone in my office, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. In 12 days, everything would change again. The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom looked like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers the size of cars hung from gilded ceilings 30 feet high. Round tables draped in champagne-colored silk seated 600 guests, CEOs, philanthropists, politicians, celebrities. Waiters in white gloves circulated with trays of Cristal champagne and caviar blinis. A 12-piece orchestra played soft jazz from a raised platform. I stood in the private entrance with Eleanor, wearing a midnight blue Ralph Lauren gown she'd insisted on buying for me. "You're representing the foundation now," she'd said. "And yourself. Look the part." Simple diamond studs, borrowed from Vivian. Hair pulled back in a classic chignon, minimal makeup. I wanted them to see me, not a costume. "Ready?" Eleanor asked, linking her arm through mine. I nodded, even though my heart was trying to punch through my ribcage. We stepped into the ballroom, and a wave of heads turned. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Most of these people had no idea who the new CEO was. Eleanor had insisted on keeping it quiet until tonight's official announcement. The mystery had been driving the social circuit crazy for weeks. I scanned the room, looking for the one table I both dreaded and needed to see. There. VIP section, third row. My father in a Tom Ford tuxedo. My mother in an Oscar de la Renta gown that probably cost $15,000. And Tara, stunning in emerald green, laughing at something a silver-haired man was saying. They hadn't seen me yet. They look comfortable, Eleanor murmured. They always do. Not for long. She squeezed my arm gently. Remember, Murianne, you've already won. This is just the curtain call. Greg Whitmore stepped up to the microphone on stage. The lights began to dim. I excused myself from Eleanor to get champagne from the bar, needing a moment to steady my nerves before the announcement. I was 3 steps away when I heard her voice. Oh my God, Muri? I turned. Tara stood there, champagne flute halfway to her lips, staring at me like I'd risen from the dead. Tara. I kept my voice neutral. Her shock melted into something crueler, a smile. What are you doing here? Are you working this event? As staff? No, I said evenly. I'm a guest. I'm a guest, she laughed. That dismissive, tinkling sound that had haunted my childhood. Whose guest? Did someone take pity on you? My mother appeared beside her, Diana Hayes in all her pearl-clutching glory. She looked me up and down, taking in the gown, the styling, the borrowed diamonds. Her expression curdled. Murianne, I didn't expect to see you here. She made it sound like I'd crashed a private party. I hope you're managing, somehow. I'm managing just fine, Mom. My father materialized from the crowd, his face hardening the moment he spotted me. Murianne, interesting that you'd show up here. It's a charity gala, Dad. I'm supporting a good cause. With what money? Tara's voice dripped with false concern. Last I checked, you were unemployed and homeless. I met her eyes, held her gaze. Things change. Well, my mother sniffed. Good for you, darling. I'm glad you found somewhere to be tonight. Do enjoy the free food. Tara leaned in, her voice low enough that only I could hear. You don't belong here, Muri. You never did. I could have responded, could have said 1,000 things, but I didn't need to, because at that moment, the lights dimmed further. The murmur of 600 voices quieted. Greg Whitmore's voice boomed through the sound system. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the Callaway Foundation's 15th annual gala. I turned away from my family and walked back toward the stage. Let them watch. Greg Whitmore stood at the podium, distinguished in his tuxedo, his white hair gleaming under the spotlights. The room settled into expectant silence. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. For those who don't know me, I'm Greg Whitmore, chairman of the Callaway Foundation Board of Directors. We are honored by your presence tonight. Polite applause rippled through the ballroom. 15 years ago, Eleanor Callaway lost her husband, David, to cancer. In her grief, she made a choice to transform tragedy into purpose. The Callaway Foundation was born from that choice. Since then, we've provided housing assistance to over 1.2 million people. We've funded job training programs, mental health services, legal aid, and family reunification efforts. We've invested $2.4 billion into ending homelessness in America. More applause, louder this time. I glanced toward my family's table. My father was clapping politely, nodding. Tara was checking her phone under the table. They had no idea what was coming. Tonight, Greg continued, we have a very special announcement. After 2 years of searching, Eleanor Callaway has chosen her successor as CEO of this foundation. The room buzzed with anticipation. I saw heads turning, whispers exchanged. Everyone wanted to know who'd been chosen to lead one of the largest charitable organizations in the country. This person, Greg said, his voice growing stronger, embodies the values Eleanor built this foundation on: compassion, humility, selflessness, the willingness to sacrifice for others, even when it costs everything. I felt Eleanor's hand on my shoulder, gentle but firm. This person proved their character not in a boardroom, but on a snowy street, helping a stranger with no expectation of reward. My heart pounded so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. Please welcome to the stage our new CEO. Eleanor Calloway walked to the microphone with the grace of someone who'd commanded rooms for decades. She looked out at the 600 faces, smiled, and said 5 words that changed my life forever. Ladies and gentlemen, Murianne Hayes. The spotlight swung toward me. For one frozen second, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then Eleanor extended her hand toward me, and muscle memory took over. I walked to the stage, my heels clicking on polished marble, my vision narrowing to just that microphone, that stage, that moment. The audience applauded, most of them enthusiastically. They trusted Eleanor's judgment, but one table sat in absolute silence. I reached the stage. Eleanor embraced me briefly, whispered, "You've got this," and handed me the microphone. I looked out at the sea of faces, found my family's table. My father's face had gone pale, my mother's hand covered her mouth, and Tara. Tara looked like someone had just told her the world was ending. "Thank you," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Thank you, Eleanor, and thank you to everyone here tonight." I paused, gathering my thoughts, remembering Vivian's advice. Speak from the heart. Tell your truth. 2 weeks ago, I began, I was sitting on a snow-covered bench with nothing but a suitcase. I'd lost my job, lost my home, lost my family. The room was silent. No one moved. I thought I'd lost everything, I continued, until I saw a woman stumbling through the snow, barefoot, freezing, and I realized I still had something to give, so I gave her my boots, my coat, everything I had left. I looked directly at my father, at my mother, at Tara. Tonight, I stand here as CEO of the Calloway Foundation because someone saw my heart when I had nothing else to offer. Eleanor taught me that worth isn't measured in resumes or bank accounts or family legacy. My voice grew stronger. It's measured in what you do when no one's watching. Eleanor stepped back to the microphone, gently taking it from my hand. Let me tell you how I met Murianne. The room leaned forward, captivated. For 2 years, I walked the streets of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. I dressed as someone in need, barefoot in winter, hungry, lost. I wanted to see who would help, not for cameras, not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. I heard gasps from several tables. Someone whispered, "She did what?" I approached over 200 people, Eleanor continued, wealthy people, poor people, young and old. Most walked past without a glance. Some gave me spare change, amounts they could afford to lose. 3 people offered meaningful help. One called a shelter. One bought me coffee. One gave me a $20 bill. She turned to look at me, her eyes bright. On December 23rd, I met Murianne Hayes. She'd just been kicked out of her family home on Christmas Eve. She'd lost her job. Her inheritance, $38 million, had been given to her sister. She was sitting on a bench with everything she owned in a single suitcase. I saw my father's jaw clench. My mother's face flushed red. Tara had gone completely still. When Murianne saw me barefoot in the snow, she didn't hesitate. She took off her boots, $300 Aquatalia boots, and put them on my feet. Then she gave me her coat, a $3,200 cashmere heirloom from her late grandmother. Eleanor's voice cracked slightly. She didn't know who I was. She didn't ask for anything in return. She simply said, "No one should be alone in the cold on Christmas Eve." The room was utterly silent. Several people were wiping their eyes. "That," Eleanor said firmly, "is leadership. That is character. That is exactly who I want running this foundation." Marcus appeared on the screen behind us. Security footage began to play, 3 angles showing me kneeling in the snow, removing my boots, draping my coat over Eleanor's shoulders. The applause was thunderous. I need to pause here for a second because I want to know, what would you have done in my position? Would you have confronted your family publicly or handled it privately? Drop public or private in the comments. Also, if this story is resonating with you, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Okay, back to the gala. I took the microphone back, my hands no longer shaking. As my first act as CEO, I'm launching the Second Home Initiative. The screen behind me changed, displaying architectural renderings, budget projections, partnership agreements. Second Home will be a network of 12 shelters across the country, specifically for people displaced by family rejection during holidays, people who are told they're not good enough, not wanted, not worth keeping. My voice didn't waver. These shelters will provide more than beds, will offer trauma counseling, job placement services, legal mediation for those who want to pursue family reconciliation, and long-term housing assistance. Because no one should spend Christmas on a frozen bench wondering if they matter. The audience erupted in applause. People stood. I saw tears on faces throughout the room. A man at a front table raised his hand. Ms. Hayes, Jonathan Martinez, Martinez Family Foundation, I'd like to pledge $500,000 to Second Home. The applause grew louder. A woman in the back stood. Catherine Osworth, Osworth Trust, 300,000. Another voice. The Brennan Group, 200,000. Within 5 minutes, pledges totaling $1.2 million filled the room. Marcus was frantically taking notes, verifying commitments with his team. I looked at my family's table. My father sat frozen, his expression unreadable. My mother was crying, not tears of pride, but something that looked like horror. And Tara stared at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Fear. Thank you, I said into the microphone, my voice thick with emotion. Thank you all. This foundation exists for people who've been told they're not enough, and I'm here to say, you are enough. You've always been enough. As I stepped off the stage, my father intercepted me. My father blocked my path, his face a mask of forced composure. Behind him, my mother and Tara stood like sentries. Murianne. His voice was low, controlled. We need to talk. This is unexpected. I'm sure it is, Dad. People were watching us now. Not obviously, but I could feel eyes tracking our conversation. My father felt it too. He forced a smile, trying to maintain the appearance of a proud parent. Look, I know we made some harsh decisions. Harsh? I kept my voice level, professional. You threw me out of the house on Christmas Eve. You took away my inheritance and gave it all to Tara. You told me I was worthless. We never said worthless. You said I'd achieved nothing, that I was dead weight, that the strong survive and the weak get cut. I recited his words back to him with perfect clarity. Those were your exact words, Dad. His jaw tightened. You have to understand. We thought we were doing what was best for the family. We thought tough love would motivate you. Best for the family? I glanced at Tara. Or best for your favorite daughter? My mother stepped forward, her voice desperate. Darling, we're still your parents. Surely we can work this out. You're clearly doing well now. Maybe there's a position for Tara at the foundation. She has excellent financial credentials. No. The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Mom, I'm not here to give Tara a job. I'm not here to make you look good in front of your friends. I'm here because Eleanor Calloway saw something in me that you never did. Tara finally spoke, her voice trembling. Muri, I didn't mean what I said that night. You meant every word, Tara. And that's okay. Because now I know exactly where I stand. My father's face darkened. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You're going to regret this, Murianne. Making us look bad in front of everyone. I met his eyes without flinching. I'm not here to make you look bad, Dad. I'm here to move forward, with or without you. We're your family. Family doesn't abandon family when they're down. My voice was calm, final. Eleanor Calloway, a stranger, showed me more loyalty in one night than you did in 28 years. My mother reached for my arm. Marianne, please. I don't owe you an explanation. I gently pulled away from her touch. Or forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That's something you'll have to accept. I turned to Tara. She was crying now, mascara starting to run. For the first time in our lives, I felt nothing but pity for her. I hope the 38 million makes you happy, Tara. I really do. I hope it was worth what you traded for it. Muri, I'm not angry anymore, I said quietly. But I'm also not the same person you threw away. I've moved on. I suggest you do the same. My father's face was red now, his composure cracking. This is how you treat the people who raised you, who gave you everything. You gave me conditional love. Eleanor gave me unconditional respect. I straightened my shoulders. There's a difference. I walked past them, back toward Eleanor and the board members who were waiting for me near the stage. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Behind me I heard my mother sob, heard Tara say something I couldn't make out, heard my father's angry footsteps as he stalked toward the exit. Let them leave, let them process, let them sit with what they'd done. Eleanor took my hand when I reached her. Well done! I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. 3 months later, I heard the news. Marcus knocked on my office door in early April, his expression carefully neutral. Come in, I called, looking up from the second home progress reports. We'd already opened 3 shelters, Bronx, Philadelphia, and Boston, and the results were exceeding projections. He closed the door behind him. Marianne, there's something you should know about your family. My stomach tightened. What happened? Your father made some unfortunate investment decisions. He put the entire $38 million trust fund into a cryptocurrency venture. High risk, high reward. It collapsed 2 weeks ago. I set down my pen slowly. How much did they lose? Approximately 80%. 30.4 million, gone. The number should have shocked me. Should have made me feel something. Anger, satisfaction, vindication. But all I felt was a dull, distant sadness. There's more, Marcus continued. They're selling the Greenwich estate. Couldn't keep up with the property taxes and maintenance costs after the losses. They've already moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Stamford. I thought about that marble driveway, the 15-foot Christmas tree, the Wedgwood china and imported Italian cookies. Tara resigned from Goldman Sachs, he added. Stress-related leave, according to her LinkedIn. She's looking for work, but the financial sector is aware of the family situation. It's making things difficult for her. I closed my eyes. And my mother? Health issues. High blood pressure, from what I understand. The stress has taken a toll. I sat in silence for a moment, processing. This wasn't victory. It was just consequence. They'd gambled on greed and lost everything. I never wished this on them, I said quietly. I know, Marcus replied. For what it's worth, Eleanor said the same thing. She told me, justice isn't about revenge, it's about consequences meeting actions. A week later, my phone buzzed with an email notification. From Tara Hayes. Subject, I know I don't deserve this. I stared at the preview line for a long time before opening it. From Tara Hayes to Marianne Hayes. Subject, I know I don't deserve this. Dear Muri, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you deleted it without opening it. But I need to try. We lost everything. I'm sure you've heard. Dad's investment collapsed. We had to sell the house. Mom's sick. I don't have a job. The money we used to throw around like it was infinite? It's gone. All of it. I know what you're thinking. That we deserve this. That karma is real. And maybe you're right. But I'm writing to ask, beg, really, if you'd consider hiring me at the foundation. Even entry level. I have a finance degree. I can help with budgets, grant applications, Donor relations. I'll do anything. I know I don't deserve your help. I said terrible things to you. I stood there and watched them throw you out. And I laughed. I called you weak. I thought I was better than you because I had a better job, better opportunities, better everything. I was wrong. Watching you on that stage at the gala, watching you announce second home while I sat there knowing what we'd done to you, it broke something in me, Maury. You didn't just survive what we did. You turned it into something meaningful. Please, I'm drowning. Dad won't admit we need help. Mom won't stop crying, and I don't know what to do anymore. I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. Tara. I read the email 3 times. Each time I felt the same complicated tangle of emotions. Anger, pity, exhaustion, and something I didn't want to name. Something that felt like the faintest echo of old love. I called Eleanor. What should I do? Her answer was simple. What would serve your healing? And what would serve the foundation? I took 2 days to think about it. From Murianne Hayes. To Tara Hayes. Subject, Re. I know I don't deserve this, Tara. I'm not going to offer you a job at Callaway Foundation. Not because I want to hurt you, but because you need to find your own path, not rely on mine. You spent your whole life being the favorite, the golden child, the one who got everything handed to her because you fit Mom and Dad's definition of success. Now you're learning what it's like to stand on your own, without a safety net, without unconditional support. That lesson is important. Don't shortcut it by asking me to rescue you. However, I've arranged for you to interview at 3 partner organizations that work closely with the foundation. They're legitimate opportunities in financial management and nonprofit operations. They align with your background. What you do with them is entirely up to you. If you're serious about changing, prove it there. As for Dad and Mom, I've set up a one-time emergency grant through the Foundation's Family Crisis Fund. $50,000 to cover immediate debts and Mom's medical expenses. It's a gift, not a loan. You won't owe me anything. But it comes with one non-negotiable condition: family therapy. All 3 of you. Weekly sessions for at least 6 months with a licensed therapist who specializes in family systems and reconciliation. I've already arranged a referral through Dr. Vivian Ross at the Foundation. I'm not doing this to win you back. I'm not doing this because I've forgiven what you did. I'm doing this because I believe people can grow, if they choose to. But rebuilding trust takes years, Tara. And I can't promise we'll ever get there. You hurt me, deeply, and you did it without hesitation. That doesn't go away because you're sorry now. It goes away when you prove, over time, that you've actually changed. I wish you well. I mean that. Murianne Tara's reply came within an hour. From Tara Hayes. To Murianne Hayes. Subject, Re. I know I don't deserve this, Maury. Thank you. I don't deserve this. I know I don't. But I'll take the interviews. I'll convince Mom and Dad to do the therapy, even though Dad's going to fight it. And I'll do the work. Real work, not just lip service. You're right. I've spent my whole life being handed things, being told I was special because I checked the right boxes. I never had to struggle, never had to question whether I was good enough. And when you lost your job, instead of supporting you, I used it as proof that I was better. I'm ashamed, not because we lost the money, though that hurts, but because I finally understand what I did to you, what we all did. Watching you at the gala, I kept thinking, that should have been us, celebrating you, proud of you, lifting you up instead of tearing you down. But we were too busy protecting our own egos to see who you really were. I can't undo what I said. I can't give you back the years you spent trying to win approval from people who didn't deserve you. But I want you to know, I see it now. I see you now. I'll send you updates on the therapy if you want them. Or I won't. Whatever you need. I'm sorry, Maury. I'll spend the rest of my life proving that if I have to. Tara. I read the email twice, then closed my laptop and stared out my office window at the Manhattan skyline. The city stretched out below me, endless and indifferent. I felt lighter. Not healed. Healing would take time, but lighter. Like I'd set down something I'd been carrying for too long. Eleanor was right. Compassion didn't mean letting people walk over you again. 6 months later, the first second home shelter held its grand opening. The Bronx Second Home stood on a quiet street corner, a renovated brick building that had once been a warehouse, now transformed into a 50-bed shelter with private counseling rooms, a computer lab for job applications, and a community kitchen that smelled like fresh bread. I stood at the entrance with Eleanor, Marcus, Vivian, and about 100 community members, donors, and press. A red ribbon stretched across the doorway. Someone handed me oversized scissors. "This is your moment," Eleanor whispered. I cut the ribbon. The crowd applauded. Cameras flashed. Inside, the space was warm, bright, dignified. We'd worked with interior designers who specialized in trauma-informed spaces, soft colors, natural light, private nooks where people could feel safe. No institutional gray, no cold fluorescence. This was a home. A woman approached me as I toured the facility. She was maybe 35, wearing jeans and a donated coat, her eyes red but hopeful. "Ms. Hayes, my name is Maria Gutierrez. Please call me Marianne. I wanted to thank you." Her voice cracked. "My parents kicked me out when I came out to them 2 years ago. I've been couch surfing, staying in my car, sleeping at the subway station. When I heard about Second Home, I applied immediately. They accepted me yesterday." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You saved my life. This place, it's not just a bed. It's proof that I matter, that someone sees me." I pulled her into a hug. She sobbed against my shoulder. "You always mattered, Maria," I whispered. "Always." Over the next hour, I met 17 more residents. Each one had a story. Each one had been discarded by the people who should have protected them, and each one was finally safe. By the end of the first 6 months, second home shelters had taken in 340 people. 70% found stable housing or employment. Eleanor invited me to her private office in late June. Not the foundation headquarters, but her personal study in her Central Park West penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the park, shelves lined with first editions and family photos, a Steinway grand piano in the corner. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the leather sofa. I sat, suddenly nervous. Eleanor's expression was gentle but serious. "Marianne, I'm stepping down as advisory chair of the board." My stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "Because you're ready," she said simply. "You've been running the foundation beautifully for 6 months. You've launched Second Home ahead of schedule and under budget. You've increased donor engagement by 23%. You've built a team that trusts you, and most importantly, you're leading with exactly the kind of integrity this foundation needs." "Eleanor, I still have so much to learn." "You'll never stop learning. None of us do," she smiled. "But you've already proven you can lead with both heart and strategy. That's rarer than you think." She reached beside her chair and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside, carefully folded, was my grandmother's Loro Piana coat. It had been professionally cleaned and preserved, the cashmere still soft and perfect. "This belongs to you," Eleanor said softly. "Your grandmother would be so proud of who you've become." I took the coat with shaking hands, pressed it to my face, and finally let myself cry. Not from sadness, from relief, from gratitude, from the overwhelming feeling of being seen. Eleanor held me while I wept. "You didn't just find a job, Marianne," she said. "You found your calling." That night, I sat alone in my office wearing my grandmother's coat, looking out at the city. And I thought about the girl on the bench. The city glittered below me like scattered diamonds. From this office, my office, I could see the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, the bridges spanning the East River. 6 months ago, I'd sat on a frozen bench, wondering if anyone would miss me if I disappeared. Now I ran a $2.4 billion foundation. I had a team of 43 people who looked to me for guidance. I'd opened 3 shelters with 9 more in development. I'd helped 340 people find their way back to stability. And I'd done it all without my family's approval. I used to think power came from money or legacy, from being born into the right family with the right connections. I thought success meant impressing people who'd already decided you weren't good enough. I was wrong. Real power comes from knowing who you are when everything is stripped away, when you have nothing left but your character and your choices. That night on the bench, I had nothing. No home, no money, no family, just a coat and a pair of boots. And I gave them away. My grandmother used to say kindness is the only currency that multiplies. I finally understood what she meant. Not that kindness would be rewarded, though sometimes it is, but that kindness creates more of itself. When you give dignity to someone who has none, they remember. They pass it forward. The act multiplies across lives you'll never meet. I didn't help Eleanor that night expecting a job. I helped her because it was the right thing to do. And somehow, in that moment of pure selflessness, I became exactly who I was meant to be. The girl on the bench is gone. But the woman she became? She's just getting started. Marcus delivered updates about my family every few weeks, even though I never asked. I think he understood I needed to know they were okay, even if I wasn't ready to see them. Tara took one of the interview positions, a financial analyst role at a small nonprofit focused on educational equity. The salary was $68,000 a year, a fraction of what she'd made at Goldman Sachs. But according to her supervisor, who happened to know Vivian, she was thriving, learning humility, actually listening to people. My parents had been attending family therapy for 4 months. Their therapist reported slow but genuine progress. My father was beginning to understand how his obsession with achievement had damaged both his daughters. My mother was confronting her complicity in the family's toxic dynamics. In May, I received an email from my mother, short, careful. Muri, we're working on ourselves. Thank you for the chance. Mom. I didn't respond immediately. I sat with it for 3 days. Then I wrote back. Mom, I'm glad you're trying. Take your time. I'm not ready to see you yet. But I hope the therapy helps. M. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was acknowledgement. A door left open, not slammed shut. Healing isn't linear. Sometimes distance is the healthiest gift you can give. For them, and for yourself. I don't know if we'll ever be a family again. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I'm okay with that now. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's this. Your worth is not determined by who rejects you. Not by your parents, your siblings, your employers, or anyone else who decides you don't meet their standards. Worth is inherent. It exists whether or not someone else recognizes it. Kindness, real, selfless kindness, has a way of coming back. Not always in the way you expect, not always immediately, but it comes back. Eleanor found me because I chose compassion over self-preservation. That wasn't magic, that was life-rewarding integrity. And boundaries aren't cruel, they're necessary. You can wish someone well and still keep your distance. You can hope they grow without putting yourself in harm's way while they do it. You can forgive without forgetting. You can move forward without reconciling. The people who underestimate you will either learn or they won't. Either way, you keep walking, you keep building, you keep showing up as the person you want to be, not the person they said you were. I gave away a coat and a pair of boots. I received a purpose. That's not a fairy tale. That's what happens when you refuse to let cruelty make you cruel. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life journeys like this. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one act of kindness you've given or received that changed your life? I read every single one. And if you want more stories of resilience and justice, check out the videos in the description below. See you in the next one. 1 year later, on Christmas Eve, I drove back to Greenwich. Not to the estate where I'd grown up. It belonged to someone else now, a tech entrepreneur with 3 young children. But to Greenwich Avenue, to the small park where everything changed. The same stone bench sat beneath the bare oak tree, dusted with fresh snow. I sat down, wearing a new coat but carrying the old one, my grandmother's Loro Piana, carefully wrapped in tissue paper inside a gift box. I'd added a card. For someone who needs warmth tonight, you matter, you've always mattered. M.H. I left the box on the bench, tucked it against the backrest where someone would see it. Then I stood, pulled my own coat tighter, and looked up at the falling snow. A year ago, I'd sat here shaking, broken, wondering if I'd ever feel whole again. Now I stood here as the CEO of a foundation that had helped over 700 people find housing, employment, and hope. I'd built something that mattered, not because of my last name or my family's money, but because someone saw my heart when I had nothing left. My phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. Ready for the next chapter? I smiled and typed back. Always. I walked away from the bench, my boots crunching on fresh snow, my breath fogging in the cold winter air. The girl on the bench is gone. But the woman she became? She's just getting started. My phone rang as I reached my car. Unknown number. International prefix. I answered. This is Murian Hayes. This is... Ms. Hayes. My name is Dr. Amara Okafor. I'm calling from the Global Shelter Alliance in Geneva. We've been following your Second Home initiative with great interest. I unlocked my car but didn't get in, too focused on the voice on the other end. We'd like to discuss a partnership, Dr. Okafor continued. Expanding Second Home internationally. We have funding and infrastructure in place across 15 countries. We just need the right leadership and vision. 15 countries, thousands more lives. I looked back at the bench one more time, at the gift I'd left behind, at the place where a stranger's kindness had saved me. Tell me more, I said. Eleanor was right. This was just the beginning.